Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Power Within podcast. I'm your host, Laurie, and today I'm super excited to have Cindy Busby back on. Cindy, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. This is awesome.
I was just thinking the last time you were my first guest, and I remember I'm like, oh, I'm so thankful I didn't record at those ones because I was like reading from paper, and you were the sweetest. So I
Hey,
learned
we
so
all
much.
sit somewhere. It's a lot to remember. It's a lot to think about. The more you do, the more you get better.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to jump right in. So you have a new movie, Love in Zion. I think I'm saying it right, Zion, not Zion. National Park, and that comes out on May 20th, 8 EST time. So can you share a little bit about that film?
It's really exciting because we got to shoot well in the surrounding areas of Zion National Park. And yeah, it's a really great story about a girl named Lauren Collins, my character, who is on the search for a missing vase. And these vases are really important. They belong to the Anasazi Nation, who still surround the Zion National Park area, and they're well known for their crafts and their baskets. And she works at a museum. But the reason she's really passionate about this project is because Zion was a really important place for her growing up. She would go with her mom all the time. Um, and explore, and it was her mom's favorite place, but her mom passed away a few years ago, and so Lauren hasn't been back to the park since. And so it's a really beautiful story about finding herself again, reconnecting to her mother, finding her way through the park with her mother's love and spirit. And the vases are really just the excuse for all of that to come to be. And of course, along the way, it wouldn't be a Hallmark movie without a wonderful, handsome man, park ranger, played by the amazing David Gridley. But yeah, I had such a great time working with him, and of course, the surrounding beauty of Zion. If the story isn't enough for you, then just the park in and of itself will really lure you in. Which, interestingly enough, was originally the title of the movie, Love and Lore in Zion.
It
Yeah.
is such a beautiful place, and you've filmed in a lot of beautiful places. Now, I know you said that you guys had to film in the surrounding areas, but did you go and explore a little bit, either with your co-star or by yourself while you were there? I know it was a little chilly. You had your coat on at some
It
point, but
was chilly, and we were, the things that the audiences never see is the constant, ever-changing reality of working with the great outdoors and Mother Nature, and we're battling the weather constantly, and the producers are ever changing the schedules and hoping that this day there isn't any snow. And of course, this is a mid-May movie, so it's kind of like a summer vibe, so you don't want to show any snow, any kind of precipitation. And so that was a bit of a challenging experience, but we made it happen, we made it work. And it was amazing, but I didn't really get to go inside the park, to be honest. We didn't have a ton of time off, and a lot of crew did go and enjoy the park, but as an actor, it's a little bit difficult to do that because on our days off, we're just exhausting. We're memorizing lines, and I mean, some people will do it. I'm just kind of like I just get into like shelter mode, and I just stay in my place, and I'll do my little exercises, and then I'll just work, and then I'll just get some sleep. But now that I've broken the ice, I really hope to go back and actually really enjoy the park, as Cindy, and not as the character and the actor while I'm working, which was amazing getting to do that with the Yosemite movie I got to do. But yeah, this time was a little bit different. Zion is a little bit more protected when it comes to shooting in it. But don't worry, you're still gonna get to see all the best of Zion with a little bit of movie magic.
now, had you ever been there before, or was this your first time?
No, I'd never been. I mean, I've been to Utah before, but which is such a stunning place. But I'd never been to the park before, so it was a first, and definitely won't be the last.
That's awesome. That's on my bucket list to do. So I was very excited when you shared that you were doing a movie
Yes.
there.
Oh yeah.
Now, now when you
I
film,
know.
you had just touched like on your day off that you have to memorize lines. And how long does it take you to memorize lines? Or is it something that once you get it or read it, you see it, or does it take you some time?
It definitely takes time. It just depends on the scene. Obviously, some scenes, they're very quick. It's like one or two lines. But then, some of them have like little monologues or more, a little bit more complex information that you're giving. So it just depends on what the scene is about. But typically for me, the way I function is I'll, read it a few times, take some time away from it, then I'll come back to it. Like there's kind of a beauty in letting it sit and letting your body absorb the information, your brain absorb it. And then I also really love just hearing it, so I'll often run. I often force my husband Chris to run lines with me, and so that's his little side gig. But yeah, he just by hearing the other characters' lines and what they're saying, because really what's going on in the scene is you're having a conversation, right? So the other characters' lines are going to fuel your lines, etc. So that really helps me remember them a lot more. But yeah, I mean, muscle is the brain is a muscle, and it's a memory, and the more you do it, the better you are at it. And when I do these movies, I'm amazed sometimes at what I can memorize in a short period of time. It's a really fascinating thing once you're in the momentum of it all. But it's kind of like that short term memory where, like, don't ask me what that line was like 6 months later, because there's no way I would remember. I
Oh,
kind of
that's
like
awesome.
take that, drag it to the trash, and empty out the trash.
Do you ever, like when you're filming, do you ever, I guess, I don't know if it's the right term, but ad lib? And how often when you do that, does it end up staying? Do they ever use that stuff, or do they have to rewrite?
Yeah. Yeah, they tip. I mean, it always depends on the director and the project and how involved the writer is. But in my experience, a lot of the movies that I've been a part of, like with the Hallmark Channel, there's usually a version where we'll kind of stick to the script, and then there'll often be a version where there'll be a little bit more improv, or if the director is like, oh, like while you were doing that, that was amazing, or like like you gave me an idea, try this next time. And there's a lot of like fluidity in it, and a lot of room to play, which I totally love. Some actors feel a lot less comfortable with improv. I love improv. I'm actually more comfortable with improv, and just kind of like often putting like I'm really one of my specialties that I love is a button. And what a button is usually the last moment of the scene. So we're sitting there, we just had our conversation, and then there's like that moment before the director yells cut, where there's a moment to play, where it's a look, or it can be a line or a laugh or whatever it is that kind of like ties the scene together. And sometimes they'll be written in the script, but then other times it won't. So I'll just live in the moment and just do what I feel is correct in that moment. And sometimes I'll just get people laughing really hard, or like the director will be like, oh, that was so good, or like, okay, maybe a little bit of less of that, and I'll be like, okay, it was fun, it was worth a shot. All right, let's reel it back a little bit. So that's usually a good opportunity to play a little bit more, but it just depends on a lot of factors. But for the most part, it's been pretty great.
I love that, and that you were just saying that when you were talking about the looks and the fun things. I'm like, she's so bubbly. Like, I can just see how you would make that like a fun part. So I love that you do that.
Yeah,
Um,
I try. I mean, you gotta have fun with it, right?
Now, you just celebrated your 40th birthday, and you have
I
been
do.
traveling and doing a lot of fun stuff. So, first thing I want to ask you is, Going into your 40th birthday, some people get so creeped out by those bigger birthdays. But
Yeah.
what piece of wisdom would you give people that, because you really celebrated it and you were excited about it and I loved it. I was so excited for
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Yeah, I was excited about it. A lot of people, um, I don't know. I mean, it just depends on how you view life and a lot of factors. But I think aging is a blessing. It's I really take it with so much love and gratitude and I just, am I the same as when I was 20? Absolutely not. Physically, your body changes as you get older. That's just a fact. But it's a fact that you just have to learn to accept, I think. And I won't say that I'm perfect with it. There's better days than others, but the part of me that feels so grateful is the wisdom that I've acquired through experience in my life, and that's the part I would never give that up. I'm so beyond grateful. Everything I've learned, everything I've been through in my life, and for me to be where I am today I'm just super excited about it, and I'm grateful for my career. I'm grateful for the incredible friends and husband I have, and like, what's not to celebrate? Like, I'm alive, I'm healthy. I am, yeah, I feel really blessed, and I just wanted to celebrate. I mean, I feel like we should celebrate ourselves all the time. Like, it's not just because you're 40. If it's when you turn 26, 52, or 101, like, whatever it is, I think everyone deserves to celebrate themselves. And I think that that's what I've learned to really um, take on in the last few years, is like making time for myself, making time for my friends. Like, there's never, like, I just went on an amazing trip with my mother. We went to Spain, and I've never gone on a big trip with my mom. Like, other than, when we went to Florida when I was like 12 or something. Like, and you're like a teenager and you hate hanging out with your parents or whatever. But it's like, I I feel like there's never a good time to do stuff. There's always a reason not to do it, and it's about finding the reasons to do it and just do it. Like, and just make the things happen for yourself, and that's celebrate, whether it's going on a trip, making time for your friends, making time for yourself. Um, I guess my all that very long story to say, my wisdom would be, um, yeah, just celebrate yourself, celebrate the incredible human being that you are. I and love the human being that you are, and the more that you appreciate and love your life and yourself and the beautiful things that you've accomplished. And I don't mean big things, I mean little things, because I feel like the big things will always come when you appreciate the little things. And by little things, I mean like waking up, drinking a cup of coffee if you love coffee, having a really beautiful, deep conversation with a friend, having a friend that can be there for you when you're having a hard day. Like, those are moments I'm really grateful for. It's not just the really big wins, because the wins are always going to be easy to be excited about, right? But if we can be grateful and look back on like the harder moments and be like, oh, like, thank you. I'm constantly saying thank you, even when I don't want to say thank you to the universe. So yeah, just know that it's always going to be okay. In the dark times, it's always going to be okay again. Like, there's always a new day, there's always a new season, there's always a new moment. Nothing lasts forever. And even though it's really hard, and I've had a lot of really hard moments in my life, that's never going to go away. But the only thing I have now is more tools to deal with it, and more patience to deal with it, and more grace that I give myself to feel those things and to be those things, and not to leap over experiences because they're uncomfortable, because they make the wonderful moments that much greater. And there's always going to be wonderful moments.
That's so beautiful, Manson. You are
That's
so.
my long. That's my very long answer.
That's incredible, and I love what you had said because I kind of feel like, and I felt like this in my own life too, that if I don't appreciate the little things, like you said, waking up, hearing the birds, seeing the rabbits, like waking up, just all those
Yes.
little things, I find that I don't appreciate the big things as much. So for me, I
Yep.
will appreciate the little things just as much, if not more, than the big things because I think it makes that, I think it makes it even more special when you celebrate those big things because you are so grateful for all the small things.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, like it's kind of, I guess the thing I'm consciously working at constantly is to not have judgment, like thinking that, oh well, who am I to be grateful for that, it's not this, and like I'm constantly comparing and judging my experiences, but every experience is just an is what it is. It's an experience, and like for me to say that's small, that's big, that's better, that's not as good, it's not like, what is that, like what does that even mean? And I think that that's a huge part of it too, is when you're constantly comparing one experience to the other, that's what makes it good or bad. But it's not good or bad, it's just an experience. And I don't say that to downplay an experience. Like I understand that there's sad moments and fun moments and joyful moments, but there's still moments, and they're always going to pass. And I guess that's what I mean about like not holding on to the idea of like something being better than the other, because it's just the thing that's
Yeah.
happening.
And you also do on your, actually, I want to talk about one of them because I loved it so much. You do your Monday wisdom on your Instagram, you have the subscriptions, and I love them because you really
That's right, the
are,
subscription.
yes. And anyone who's not doing it, do it because it is so worth it. And you
Aw.
give so much good information. And I loved, you did one recently where you talked about Sue's, and I was like, this is so good. And so you were talking about the squirrel. I actually, you tell it better. So can you talk about that? What you kind of talked about, because I thought it was so important about being in the moment and seeing what's in front of you instead of looking
Hmm.
around you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I feel like having a dog, and I'm sure having a baby, like a child, having children does the same thing, but my experiences with the dog is that they're constantly like living in the moment, and they're constantly teaching us about ourselves or about life in general. And so it seems kind of silly, but I'm constantly learning from Sue's, like about myself and about life. And this particular day, I was walking Sue's, and I don't take my phone with me when I walk Sue's because I really try to be present with her. Once in a while, I'll bring her because I'll do a video for the subscription. But most of the time, I just want to be with her. And I was walking her, and we always walk on this particular side of the street, but once in a while we'll go on the other side of the street. And on that side of the street, at one point or another, she saw a squirrel there. And now every time we walk on the other side of the street, she'll want to go onto the other side of the street because that one time we saw a squirrel. And it's amazing the memory they have. So as we're walking on this other side of the street, she's always looking on the other side, looking, and there's nothing. But she's constantly putting her attention on the other side of the street. And sometimes it happens that there's a squirrel right in front of us on the tree or crossing the sidewalk. And I just wait there and I kind of try to see, like, is she going to notice the squirrel? And she has very good scent, so she typically is pretty good at seeing it. But sometimes she totally misses the cue because she's too busy looking on the other side of the street. And so I kind of had an epiphany that there's so many times us as human beings, we're constantly waiting for that other thing or waiting for that, looking on the other side of the street, and or we're looking at our phones, or we're doing whatever it is by not being in the present moment. And who knows what opportunity is passing us by at that exact moment. Who knows, like, you're walking down the street and you're on your phone, maybe like the man of your dreams will walk by you or something, you know? And it's like there's so many things that we're looking that we're not being here now, and we're looking at what might be better on the other side of the street. And and true, there might be something amazing on the other side of the street, but what about the side that you're on right now? What about every step that you're taking, and just being grateful for those things rather than, like the grass is always greener quote. And so that's kind of what Sue's has constantly taught me. And you know what? I mean, it goes so much deeper than that. Like sometimes I'll be like on my computer doing some work on my phone, and she'll just stare at me, and then all of a sudden she'll just go get her little pickle, which is like her little pickle toy, and it makes just the most annoying sound you've ever heard. It's like wee, wee, and you're like, ah. But then she does that because she's like snapping me into this like very moment, and I'm like, you know what? You're right. It is break time. I don't really. This isn't an important thing. I'd like to spend a moment, like a conscious present moment with you, and then I'll like play with her a little bit. And obviously, I can't play with her all day long, but there's just little moments like that where we kind of snap ourselves out of it, and I feel like animals and children are a really great example of bringing us adults back into the this very moment in time.
Yeah, it was great. And because even myself, I was like, oh, there was just a couple things going on in my own life. And I was like, oh, I'm too busy trying to look ahead instead of seeing like
Yes.
and appreciating what's in front of me. And I was like, okay, stop, slow down. And so it came at like such a
Yeah.
perfect time. And I was like, oh, I love Cindy's subscription. So I had to talk about that and say thank you for that
Oh,
because it
thank
is great.
you. Well, and it's also like a lot of times we'll be comparing to like, oh, that person has this right now, or that person has that. And it's like, okay, well, just because that person has this right now doesn't mean you're not going to get it. It just means you don't have it right now. And you have a different path to get there. And who knows where that person will be by the time you get there, etc. Right? There's always your particular road is a unique road and is a unique experience that will never be had again. So it's like just enjoy it and be here now.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I love that. And you were talking about that. You touched on it when you were talking about having your vacation that you just had with your mom. And
Yeah.
I know that you've had a couple fun ones this year. And I think that that's really important too, because a lot of times we are so focused on what's coming next, what's there that we don't. And even myself, I've been like, oh, I've been wanting to do this vacation and I've been wanting to do that. And I've been wanting to go to Vancouver Island for years. And I was
I
like,
know, it's so
just do
exciting.
it. And so I did it. And I was
Yes.
like, that's so fun because when you were talking about that, and you had said when you were talking about in the video before you and your mom were going, you kind of explained that a little bit. And I was like, oh, there's some more fun things I want to do. I'm just going to do it because you know what? Nothing's promised and you have now. And why not enjoy
Yeah.
it and celebrate those things,
Absolutely. And I understand that, there's certain times that aren't good for everyone, and you have to follow what's right for you. Um, but there's always going to be an excuse. For me, my biggest excuse has been work. It's been, oh, what if I miss this job, or what if I do this, or like, and a lot of times as an actor, especially in the beginning parts, or depending on your experience, like for me, I had a lot of times where I was like struggling financially to like make a living off of acting, and then or I'd like have bursts of like, oh, I had like a lot of opportunities, okay, I'm doing great, and then all of a sudden like lulls. And so I feel incredibly grateful that I have had a consistency at this moment in time in my career, but I still struggle a little bit with that like PTSD of like the financial aspect, and like that kind of thing of worrying, like your mind it's like having a bad relationship, or like burning your dinner one day, and then you're like, ah, but what if I burn it again? Or what if I, what if that boyfriend does that to me again, or whatever? And it's like, yeah, you can easily live in that, or you can live in what's happening now and not worry about it. And I feel like the less we worry about it, the more life just hands us opportunities, because we're not so focused about the lack in our lives. Whatever that is, whether it's taking a walk and taking a break from working for an hour, like that's only can be beneficial for you as a person, is to recalibrate yourself. And for me this year, I've been taking time for myself, and making time for friends and family. And like in February, I decided to take a trip to visit some friends, and it was very last minute. It was just like, okay, I'm doing it. I just bought the ticket and I went, and I was just such an incredible, just a weekend away, but sometimes that's all you need. And yeah, life is all consuming, and it happens so quickly. And same thing, when people have kids, like they see how fast time goes, right? They see like them growing up, and they want to be there for them because it happens so quickly, and you only get that one shot.
Yeah, my nephew, he's taught me a lot about, I used to be someone who was like, I want to collect things, but I didn't do a lot of things because I was too busy collecting things. So I was collecting stuff, but I wasn't really making any memories. And as I've gotten older, I'm like, I want to make memories. So, my nephew will be talking and I'm like, oh, what do you want for your birthday? And I do this little thing where every little holiday I send him like little bits of money. So he's like, I'm saving for a Tesla, auntie. But then, yeah, so he's really smart.
Wow.
But he's
Yeah.
like, when we ask him, oh, what do you want for your birthday? I think I would like to go I would like to have a hotel so I can sit and watch the sunrise on the beach. And so he
Oh
loves
my
to go
gosh.
in. Yeah, so he loves to do things. So he'll ask,
Yeah.
oh, can we go to the beach? Can we go there? Like, my sister and her husband are visiting her husband's family in India right now. And, he'll let
Oh.
me know. He's like, Auntie, I'm having so much fun over here. He's like, I've seen more countries than you have. I'm like, you're 8 years old. Stop it.
Yeah, you're like, thanks for nothing, you brat.
Yeah, but I love that because I'm like, oh, this kid, he gets it. Like make some memories,
Yeah.
enjoy life, and be present versus
Yeah.
wanting like all these things. And that's
Yeah.
something that I'm like, oh, and like just even watching you, I've been so inspired by that. I'm like, I'm gonna start doing these things for myself because it is important to take care of ourselves and to go out and do that and make memories and explore, because I feel like for me, I don't know about you, but I also feel like I learn more about myself when I do go different places and I'm in different areas where I'm not comfortable or I don't know anyone or
Mhm.
anything, and I think it helps you grow as a human too.
I was literally gonna say that 100%. It's not even just like, oh, I'm traveling and visiting. I mean, yes, it's amazing, and learning about other cultures and food, and just seeing other things. It's you just really do learn about yourself. You grow. Like for me to spend that much time with my mom, I mean, I haven't spent that much time with her since I was living at home. And it was, and we're in a foreign country, and we're uncomfortable because we're seeing new things and we don't know where we're going. You're really testing the tools of your life, right? You're like, okay, I'm testing patience, I'm testing grace, I'm testing all of the things. And a lot of us, like a lot of our the beautiful attributes of ourselves, and then the struggles that we have, are, a lot of them stem from our youth and our family and etc., which is an incredible opportunity to learn and grow through those experiences. And so for me, I really take it by the horns, and I'm like, okay, like I'm ready to A, have this quality time, and B, like learn about myself and learn where I'm at. It's kind of like changing the gears, but they're not always changing so smoothly. And you just have to kind of like, you're I guess for me, I see it as like I'm taking account of like what it is, where I'm at. Like, where am I at right now when I'm really uncomfortable and tested? And like, what are the things I still have to work on? And what are the things that, because as we grow, like, this is the biggest misconception I constantly um, remind myself and other people as well, like friends. I'm like, you're never gonna like not stop growing. Like, you're constantly gonna be learning and you're constantly gonna be growing, and you don't ever get to the point where like, I have zero problems. That's never gonna happen. It's the same thing with like meditation. People are like, well, I have all these thoughts all the time. It's like, yeah, everyone's gonna have thoughts. The difference is like, how do you deal with the thoughts when they come? Are you holding on to them? Are you judging them? Are you doing all that kind of stuff? And it really becomes like more of like, okay, when I'm tested, like, I'm just like, okay, I'm tested right now, and that's fine. Moving on. And then it just passes. And then you're like, okay, I'm feeling really impatient right now. Okay, well, that's it. Moving on. Like, not holding on to it, not like, oh, like I'm so upset or whatever. And I feel like when we hold on to those things, that's when they linger, and and then it ruins our day. Whereas like now I'm just kind of like, okay, I'm having this thing and I just learn to accept it, or I'll just blurt it out. I'll just be like, I'm feeling really frustrated right now. And then all of a sudden, just by saying it, it's like, oh, well, that's past now. And it's like you're just diffusing the bomb sort of thing.
Yeah, and also too, I know that you do a lot of it because I've seen you post some photos and on talk about your, I think you said it was Pilates or something.
Yeah.
Exercise is
Yeah.
incredibly helpful whenever you're going through. I find for me, whenever I'm going through like a tough time or something, there's nothing that going outdoors and just kind of spending some time in nature doesn't help
Yes.
fix me or help me organize everything in my head to know, okay,
Yes.
I can sort through this, I can work through this. Can you talk a little bit about how exercise helps you in your life? Because I know it's something that you do
Hmm.
frequently as well.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like exercise, like whether it's Pilates or going for a hike or walking Sue's, for me, it's just about getting out of the routine, getting out of your head, getting into your body. I'm a firm believer that our bodies hold on to emotion and and we have like a lot of blockages and things, and our stress lingers. And I think it's really important to move our body to let go of that energy and those kind of stagnant feelings. And also it brings you back to the present moment. When I'm working out or I'm hiking or I'm looking at nature, there's just something really healing about being in nature that reminds you like of our essence, and our true nature is just to just be. Just like a tree is just swaying in the wind, just like a flower is, you know, absorbing the sun, and like the ants are grabbing, like whatever it is, like it's just all happening. And so all the little things that we're like worried about or are bugging us, like what does that really like matter in the grand scheme of like that is nature? Or when I'm working out, I'm not thinking about whatever, I'm just thinking about my breath. And a lot of times, um, like one of the things I loved about acting class, and I feel like all human beings should take an acting class at some point, hopefully a decent one, is you learn so much about being a human being, because that's what an actor is. An actor is just being a human being in a very specific circumstance. And so you learn about yourself and what your capabilities are and what your blockages are based on your humanity. And one of the main things that often teachers talk about is just taking a breath. Just take a breath in the moment. Like if you want to feel, breathe. A lot of times when people don't want to feel, they stop breathing. They and it's just like the breath when I work out, it helps me just reconnect to my body, to myself, to my heart, to my soul. Because we're so external, we're such a externally driven society. We're very about looks and about things and about the constant like intense visuals that we're getting, that I just need to like reconnect to myself. And sometimes even I'll like be in Pilates and like I'll just close my eyes and breathe, and you can't breathe consciously and think or do anything else. So that to me is like a massive helpful strategy, one that I highly recommend.
Yeah, it is great because you are right with that. If you are really focusing on breathing and depending on, because I know that there's different types of breath work too, depending on what you're practicing or
Hmm.
doing, if your
Yeah.
mind's running, then I notice that myself when I'm trying to meditate. I'm like, I'm like holding my breath and I'm like, wait, hold on, back to your
Yes.
breath, just let it go,
Yeah.
let it go. And that's the most
Yes.
important thing is letting stuff go and then just focusing. Because I think our minds
Yeah.
are so busy on what's next, what do we got to do, what have I got planned, and it's so important to just take that time. And I think that meditation is probably one of the best forms of self-care that you can give yourself, my opinion anyway.
Yeah. And the thing about meditation or breath is it allows, as people say, cause for a pause. When you consciously take a breath, you have a moment to yourself, and you have a moment to be like, okay, what's happening right now? What am I feeling? What are my surroundings? What is affecting me at this moment? Um, which I think, again, with all of the external stuff going on, it's easy to get lost in the feeling and the reaction. And the reaction isn't necessarily what the feeling is about. The reaction is just that. It's a reaction. It's something that your mind is creating, but it's not necessarily what your body is telling you. And the only way to do that is to really, come back to yourself and breathe and close your eyes. Sometimes even when I'm on set, I'll be in the moment and I'll just like, not when we're shooting, of course, but like I'll like close my eyes and I'll just like take a moment, because there's a lot of stuff constantly going on around you as an actor, the lighting and the setups and the DP and the people talking and whatever. And for me to be able to do my job, I need to connect to myself. Otherwise, I can't do my job. And that to me is the biggest clue about what we need as humans in the reconnection process.
And you also, like, you're someone who does take very good care of yourself. So when you're talking about you being on set, and I know you had mentioned this before too, because I chuckled, you had brought your own snacks because you wanted to make sure that you had healthy options because they weren't as healthy on set. Is that something that you pretty much do everywhere that you go, bring your own healthy snacks and food?
Yeah, yeah, I really, just like anything else, it's obviously like I care about my health, I care about my longevity, I care about, giving my body what it needs, to function properly. But my body is constantly doing what it needs to do for me. That's the thing about the body, is like it's constantly working for you, whether you ask it to or not. And so I really try to humbly take care of my body and thank my body for what it's constantly doing for me, unconsciously, well, consciously, but me unconsciously doing it all day long. And so when I'm working, 12, 14 hours, like those are long days, and that's it's a lot of work. And for myself as an actor, it's a lot more mental work. And so I need to be like on, and I need to be ready. And whether it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, whether it's like 6 o'clock in the morning, like I need to be present. I need to have energy. I need to be able to show up for the story, for the movie, for my co-star. And food and hydration and nutrition is a huge part of that. And so is, I did an interview recently, and the person talked about like how do you get physically fit for these movies, like the movie for Zion. There's a lot of hiking involved, there's a lot of like walking and being in the sun and being outside. And part of my job as an actor is, yes, you want to look physically good and all that, but it's more than that. It's about having the energy and the consistency throughout the day to be able to do those things. Like if I never work out and I just eat trash all day long, for me to work a 12, 13-hour day and hike a mountain, that's going to be tough. At least for me. I don't know about other people, but I'm not going to feel good about it. So And again, that's not to say that I don't indulge. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I just went on a, 12-day trip with my mother. Trust me, there was a lot of indulgence going on. um, but it's all about balance, and it's about, because that life is about balance. It's again the whole good bad thing. There's nothing good or bad. It's just like there's just moments and there's phases in life, and one minute you're eating a whole pizza to yourself, and the next minute you're eating a salad. That's
Yeah.
it. That's how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do you do like because okay, I'm going to be working and I want to do this. Do you do any type of like meal preps, or do you just wake up in the morning and prep everything then? I know some people like me, I try to start like on the weekend so that I know that I keep myself
Mm,
on task. Is that something that you do, or is it more of a
right.
daily practice?
For myself, it's more of a daily practice. But of course, like buying groceries, that'll happen, at the like on the Sunday, for example, so that I'm ready for the week. Um, but yeah, I or the night before. Mine will either be the night before or the morning of. I'll prepare everything, but yeah, it just feels good, and I just know what I like, and I don't like to be the picky person on set, So I'm just kind of like, you know what? It's all good. Like these, and sometimes I'll grab a bag of chips from Crafty, like for sure I will. It's just that, and it's just funny because like I'll often, have my co-stars and they'll just see me take my bag out, and then I'll just, whatever, take out a pepperoni stick or whatever, and they'll be like, what else do you have in that bag? Like, and then, I'll often share with them as well. And yeah, I don't know. I love food. Like, I love food, and I love really good food. And I genuinely love healthy food. So I don't know, it just comes naturally to me, I guess.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I do love good food, and I think that also rest is important too. Like I just
Oh,
started
yeah.
with my friend like the 75 hard
I
challenge,
know.
and
Yes.
she's like, Lori, the only thing that they don't have in there is like a good night rest. And I started laughing. I said, well, good thing for that, because I'd fail it every day. But I do
Yeah.
make sure to take care of yourself, because if you don't give yourself the rest that your body needs, like you feel drained. And I find that that's when you start making poor choices on food and
Yes.
any decisions.
Yeah, because you got like hormone imbalances. And again, health is so much more than nutrition. Like nutrition is a very small part of that. Health is physical, mental, emotional, nutritional, like it's all the things. Talking about food is a very broad strokes. But I think when you lead a healthy lifestyle in all of those aspects of your life, of taking care of yourself emotionally, taking care of yourself mentally, taking care of yourself in your relationships, in like the relationship with yourself. I think when you genuinely like want to take care of yourself, you want to do like great things for yourself, and sleep is one of them. Like having a good sleep routine. Gosh, we could learn a lot from kids' sleep routines. Like going to bed. I don't know, for myself, I've recently started going to bed at like 9:30 and waking up at like 6:30, and I feel better doing that routine than I've ever felt before. Like just knowing, and my body naturally wants to go to bed and naturally wakes up. And I think that there's something to all of that, the natural, like when do animals go to sleep? When do they wake up? Like when does nature wake up? Like there's something really interesting about all those things that I'm just fascinated about, and that I see where there's a lot of merit there.
Now, do you ever have trouble where like when you get apart and you're like, okay, next week I'm going to be there, and like you're on a completely different time zone, like from what you've been used to. How does
Yeah.
that go with you for the adjustment period? Do you have a hard time with that, or?
Mm, I it usually takes me like a day or two. It's also sleeping, like if I'm away from home, sleeping in a different bed, different energy, different space, like that definitely affects me more than the time zone, for example. Um, but yeah, I try to just create, it's about recreating the routine, right? And not necessarily being like, okay, well, it's this time back home. It's like, no, like this is the time zone I'm in. Okay, this is 9 o'clock this time. This is when I'm going, but this is 8 o'clock this time. This is when like, I can't live in the like, oh, well, technically this is my morning. This is why, like, no, I'm like, the sun's down, bedtime. Like that's, that's it, so that's kind of like but it's not a perfect system. And usually, sometimes I have times where it's the day before my first day and I'll kind of like have the jitters, and it's doesn't matter how many times I've done it, I still get super nervous, but like the nerves are really just excitement and being like, okay, here we go. It's like the first day of school kind of thing. It's like, it's not like you've never been to school, but it's like, okay, like there's gonna be new students, there's gonna be new teachers, and like, what am I gonna wear? Thankfully, I, as an actor, don't have to think about that. Somebody chooses that for me. But yeah, I mean, look, there's issues with everything, and then, but there's wonderful aspects to it. And I think that's part of why I love having my all the things I travel with. Like if I'm in a hotel, I travel with my kettle, my portable kettle, and I've got like my utensils, and I've got like my special salt that I have, like things that make me feel comfortable. Like, and I'll travel with my crystals and maybe a candle, like things that'll help you make you feel at home when you're not at home. That's just something that you develop with time when you're on the road, like I am a lot of the time. And so you just find little ways to make yourself comfortable.
And you, one thing that I love about you is that you kind of, nothing really kind of like phases you too much. Like you were talking about that earlier, oh, if there's a struggle, okay, let it come in and then it goes. And, you were just saying that you traveled and you were in a nice warm climate and then you went to where you are now and you were like, I had to go buy a jacket and
Yeah.
jeans. And I really like that because like some people get, I used to be that person. I wanted to control everything, and I'm like, if things didn't go, I would be so uptight and it would ruin everything. So I love that you do that
Yeah.
and teach
I mean,
yourself
look,
that.
it's been a journey. I have not always been like that. I have been um, a total product of my environment in that, like growing up, things were not always stable and comfortable, and so I had to create like a world of, like what you said, like control and like wanting things to be a certain way so that I would feel comfortable, because I thought that if those things were going, then that would kind of help me feel better about other stuff, like more emotional or mental things going on with me. But it's just a means to an end by doing the perfectionism stuff and the controlling stuff, right? And so the moment I just kind of like started focusing on myself and just healing myself and healing the parts of me that had wounds and weren't perfect, because I think a lot of perfectionism comes from the idea, and the control comes from the idea of being out of control and being not perfect. But like none of that exists. No one has that figured out. And, I think the more you can just become accepting of those things, then it makes the crappy moments easier to digest than to just like let them like linger and hold on to them. Like, there's definitely stresses that come my way and I feel them and I feel overwhelmed. My big thing is I get overwhelmed easily. But some of my overwhelm used to last like very long time. Like I would feel overwhelmed and like scattered and like, what do I do? And not making any correct decisions, because how can you make decisions when you're totally like out of your mind, out of your body, And so it happens now, but it's like I snap out of it like really quickly, because I'm like, oh, okay, that's happening. Oh, okay, these are the tools I have. Oh, okay, like we're gonna move on. And so I share all that just because I don't want anyone to feel or think that I have it figured out or anyone has it figured out. It's really just me sharing the things that I've learned, but I'm still like learning and I'm still growing through it. And I've definitely experienced things that I felt like I would never grow out of, or never, um, that it would never get better, I guess. But it did, and it has, and that's the beauty of it, and that's the part I want to share, is that despite all of that, it's a constant, ever evolving experience.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And for myself, I kind of, I feel the same way you do. And I've kind of looked at, and I think you kind of said it earlier when you were talking, that I guess, try not to use like the good and bad terminology, but like if I were to like
Yeah.
look at things, I used to be like, oh, this is, poor me, but now I look at it and go, every single bad situation is actually a blessing, because it is
Yes.
actually, I'm learning new things, I'm teaching myself new things. So I just look at every situation that comes my
Yeah.
way, whether it's expected, unexpected, good or bad, whatever. I look at that and go,
Yeah.
oh, this is a blessing. I'm learning and I'm growing. So I
Totally.
love that.
Totally. Yeah, perspective is everything, honestly. And and again, it's like totally fine to feel that feeling. Like I had something happen um, in my life, I don't know, a month and a half ago, and it was really difficult, and it was very challenging and very emotional. Um, and I allowed, and then my external life circumstances were kind of difficult for me to deal with that thing that was happening. And I decided that rather than put a bow on it, or try to make it, the cookie cutter like silver lining, I could see the silver lining, and I was able to know the experience, but I also allowed myself to experience the shitty part of it, and I didn't allow myself to like jump over that.
Yep.
Um, and that was a really big thing for me, because in my experience, it's always been like, okay, let's just like blaze through it. Let's move on. We don't have time for this. Um, and there's a lot of healing and beauty in allowing ourselves to just be vulnerable, to be um, whatever we need to be in that moment. And then it just passes, and it doesn't show up in 15 years from now as something else,
Yeah.
you know?
This has been such a beautiful
So,
conversation, Cindy. Thank you so much. You're such an
yeah.
incredible,
Oh my
genuine
gosh.
human being. And one thing I would like to ask you is, I know that you're in the present and, but what would you like your world to be, professionally in the next 5 years, or
Mm.
what would you like to see in the world for the next 5 years?
Oh, wow. Um, well, in my personal world, I would really love to continue to grow really strong relationships in my life. I've always taken that to heart, but I feel like I've taken a step in making that more a priority, even on a deeper level, and not making things, um, not keep things on a surface level, like really keep things like in depth, and have difficult conversations with people I love, but so that we can grow together. I think that that's been a huge thing in my life that I'm so grateful for. And to be surrounded by amazing people who want to have that with you is priceless. Um, and then, I'd really love to grow a family with Chris. That's a huge goal of mine. So that's something whatever that looks like. And then, professionally, just really keep harnessing my craft, keep bringing the growth that I've had in my personal life into my work, and share that with the world. I also really would love to go behind the scenes a little bit. So producing and directing, That's a something that I really want for myself, and I just love actors. I love humans. I love people, and I love the art form that is sharing stories. And so I'd love to work with actors in a different space like that. And for the world, what I hope for the world is just to for healing to continue to happen, and for for us to consciously go back to basics, to realize, like, what is it that we really need, and a lot of it is not what we think we need, and I think that there's a lot of beauty and love in that, and yeah, and that's, but I can only, what I hope for the world, I can only hope for myself, and I have to start with myself. And whatever we want to have for the world, we have to uh, be living proof of it first. So that's my goal, is to be living proof of that for the world.
That's so amazing. Oh man, sorry, I'm getting a little bit emotional because you are so inspiring, and I don't even know if you know how much of an impact. I've gone through a lot of really hard things myself, and there's been moments where you've reached out, and or just something you've shared has really touched me, and I know other people
Yeah.
have told me the same thing too. That Cindy took time out of her day to do something really special, and I want to say thank you for that, because you are one of the most genuine, beautiful human beings like that I've ever gotten to interact with or know, and so I'm so thankful to you, and
I'm
you're going to be
thankful
an
to
amazing
you.
director if you get to do that. So I'm excited for you. You are an amazing people
Thank
person.
you.
So
Oh, thank you so much, Laurie. It means a lot, and I'm grateful to see you flourish in this medium, and for you to just keep working at it. It's amazing, and I'll be back again, and you're gonna be even a bigger boss. So
hopefully
and keep going on your adventures. It's so amazing.
it is. Well, thank you so much, Cindy. I appreciate you being on.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.